The Shichibukai were getting annoyed with Goku's cockiness, especially Doflamingo, who took it personally when Goku made a fool out of him moments ago. Doflamingo was seething with rage but was hiding it with an evil smile. Ha 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 ha. You think you can beat us? Doflamingo said while dashing towards Goku, who wasn't moving from his fighting stance. You're nothing compared to us. Doflamingo said as he punched Goku in the face, causing a pile of smoke and rocks to go scattering around the two, making it difficult to see them. Luffy was watching with an open mouth as he saw his friend take the hit head on and not try to dodge it. What was he thinking? Luffy thought in disbelief. Even Hancock had been shocked to see Goku not try and dodge the attack. The dust was clearing up and Doflamingo was seen first by everyone, and he was smiling his evil smile. What a waste! Couldn't even take a single punch? And that wasn't even my full power, Doflamingo said while laughing. You were saying? A voice said in the dust. Doflamingo said, looking back at where his fist was surrounded by dust. The dust finally cleared and everybody had their mouth opened and their eyes widened in shock. He was Goku. He took the punch. But he didn't even seem to notice the punch that was connecting to his face. He was just staring right back at Doflamingo. Who the hell is he? Doflamingo thought to himself. Now everyone was staring to see what Goku would do next. He just backed up a bit and slowly retracted his arm back in a position that looked like he was going to punch Doflamingo. But Goku's fist never hit Doflamingo at all. Goku just thrust his arm forward and immediately Doflamingo was sent flying backwards afar and crashed down heavily. The other Shichibukai just stood there in disbelief of what Goku did. It was like Goku never even touched Doflamingo, but Goku did something to him. But what? Hancock thought to herself. Doflamingo gets up and yells towards the other Shichibukai and him. Immediately all 6 Shichibukai dashed towards different sides of Goku, trying to surround him. This technique isn't going to work on me. Goku smirked while preparing himself for their attack. The Shichibukai rushed at Goku from all sides, throwing punches at him constantly, but he kept blocking them all, even from behind him. The faster they punched, the faster Goku was adapting to their speed to counter them. Enough! Goku yelled, throwing his arms outward to his side, causing all the Shichibukai to be pushed back. Goku glared at the 6 Shichibukai and then smiled, which really put everyone in a state of confusion. Impressive. There's no doubt in my mind that you people are really the strongest in the world, but you have one problem that's really destroying your power, Goku said, looking at all the Shichibukai. They all just stared back at Goku, wondering what it was that was destroying their power. You lack teamwork. I can see it in you all. You all want to take me on, but it's not to defeat me. It's to see who is the stronger warlord. Am I correct? Goku asked, staring at all the Shichibukai who weren't saying anything but knew he was right. I thought so, Goku said. Who is this guy? He's not only stronger than them, but he's teaching the warlords of the seas how to work together to take him on? A Marine whispered to his other comrades. Wait a minute! I know him. He's the guy we brought to impel down to be locked up, another Marine said. What? What? How? It's impossible for anyone to get out of that prison, especially him, since we put him on the lowest torture chamber, a Marine said. All the Marines were wondering who Goku was and how he could easily take on all 6 warlords of the seas simultaneously. Their thoughts quickly died when they continued their battle with the pirates. If you work together, you will be able to fight efficiently and make you 80% more powerful than you are already, and I know this as you should too, Goku said. He's right, one of the warlords said. It's time we work together for once at least to take him on. Quickly the warlords worked together, coming at Goku with a faster speed and more coordinated punches at him. Good! Now I can fight you at your full power, Goku said, smiling, still blocking their attacks. Soon one of the Shichibukai landed a punch on Goku which took him by surprise, and one of them managed to get past him. Their powers are rapidly increasing, Goku thought. He disappeared out of sight and reappeared behind one of them and kicked them heavily on the side, causing the Shichibukai to go flying into another Shichibukai. Put me down! Doflamingo yelled to Goku, who grabbed him from behind, and both were floating now. Poor choice of words. Goku said he sped downward, slamming Doflamingo onto the ground, which caused Doflamingo to wheeze since all the air left his lungs during the impact. Goku looked up to see Mihawk coming at him with his blade, so he repeatedly backflipped away from Mihawk's sword range, causing him to get annoyed that his sword wasn't connecting with Goku. "Take this!" Mihawk yelled as he used his sword to create a slash beam towards Goku. "Crap! Why can't I move from my position?" Goku said. His legs felt like it just fell asleep on him. He turned slightly to see Doflamingo was still on the ground but was using his hands to stop Goku from moving. "At this rate, the slash beam will chop me in two." Goku thought until he remembered something. He put his fingers to his forehead and instant transmission away from the sword. A split second more and Goku would have definitely been hit by the sword. Where did he? ERGH. Doflamingo was kneed in the gut by Goku, causing him to roar in pain. Goku chopped at Doflamingo's pressure point, causing him to go limp. He was doing this to the other warlords as well until they were all on the ground defeated. Goku just stared at them from up above until he heard a Shichibukai. "Well, what are you waiting for? Kill us already. You beat all of us, so just end us. We're no match." Goku just shook his head side to side, saying no. "You guys are very powerful. It's just I had to study all of your fighting styles that really helped me out. If I hadn't, who knows how long this battle would have taken." Goku said, "Don't take this defeat badly, but take this defeat as a purpose to keep training and allow yourselves to be pushed beyond your limits. Then you will truly know what it feels like to be the very strongest you can be." Goku said, smiling and giving them a thumbs up before dashing away to find his friends. "What a weird guy, huh?" Mihawk said before passing out along with the other Shichibukai. After what felt like forever, Luffy finally rockets himself into the plaza. "Ace, I'm coming now!" Luffy yelled. He allowed his arms to snap and he was flying towards the wall. At the last second, a metal wall suddenly came shooting out of the ice and knocked Luffy off course. Where did those walls come from? Goku asked himself. "I see. Their plan was to seal off the pirates in the bay using those walls," the Saiyan muttered. "What a simple yet brilliant plan." The walls were so high that it completely covered the cannons the Marines were using. The area where many oars had fallen. The wall in that area didn't raise. The pirates attempted to break the walls, but their weapons shattered on impact against the strong metal. Shooting it also did no good. It didn't even bend the metal. Magma started to shoot into the air like fireworks. It was eerily pretty. The lava's shooting into the air. Luffy murmured, not quite believing what he was seeing. The magma kept flying until it disappeared into the clouds. The sky immediately darkened. This isn't good," Goku whispered. He felt his mouth grow dry. Everything was completely silent and the wind blew harshly across the ice field. After a couple of seconds, a loud rumble filled the air. It almost sounded like thunder. Not long after the rumble started, large fists of magma descended like meteorites upon the trapped pirates. "We are not letting you escape!" Sengoku yelled from the plaza. "Melt the ice and take away their footing!" The magma fists hit the ice and exploded like bombs across the ice field, blasting several pirates off their feet. The pirates barely had time to dive for cover as rain of magma fell on their heads. Within seconds, the entire bay began to look like level 4 of Impel Down. Luffy could only watch with wide-eyed horror as everything caught on fire and burned around him. Screams of pain and panic could be heard across the bay as the ice melted from under the entrapped pirates. Goku watched people fall into the sea. There were several cries of pain as the water boiled the pirates. Luffy was left in terrified awe at the display of power as he watched the magma rain down. Between this and seeing Whitebeard's ability, he started to truly see the scope of what he had gotten himself into. In this war, he was even less than an ant. Despite everything he had done since becoming a pirate, this was what he amounted to against the strongest in the world. Things got much worse for the pirates when the Marines began to shoot their cannons into the bay. They were now dealing with attacks from above, the sides, and the front. Things went downhill even further when an army of pacifistas moved into the bay and blocked the pirates' backs, trapping them on all sides. Lasers were fired, blasting all pirates within range. It was a mass genocide. Pirates fell by the dozens as people were hit with cannonballs, lasers, and magma. Those who were unlucky enough to fall into the water were boiled alive. The Marines had the Whitebeard pirates and their allies caught in a death trap. Luffy did his best to keep the magma from hitting him, but even he was blasted around, knocking him further away from the wall. He also had to watch his footing since falling into the water meant death. When he did manage to catch his breath, Luffy was left horrified at the massacre. He had never seen so many people butchered. Got to give the Marines credit, Goku said as he looked at the living hell around him. The trap was nearly flawless. Even with the whole mini-giant made, that would be guarded heavily. I can't see any way for them to escape. Whitebeard attempted to break the walls with his ability, but they wouldn't budge even to him. Not even the old tough guy can break that metal wall. The Saiyan exclaimed. What kind of metal were those walls made of? Whitebeard's ship took a direct hit from the magma fist and burst into flames. There were several loud panic screams from the pirates. It sounded like someone had been killed. All the Whitebeard pirates were devastated to watch their precious ship being destroyed, and they did everything within their power to put the flames out. Whitebeard, your era is at an end. Akainu proclaimed as he mercilessly destroyed the Moby Dick with several well-placed magma balls. Timber flew everywhere, and the Whitebeard pirates and their allies yelled and screamed in distress. Whitebeard, who was still standing near Moby Dick, slowly turned around and looked over the remains of his beloved ship. Forgive me, Whitebeard said so softly that it was amazing that Luffy even heard from where he stood. It was getting harder to see as steam occurred from the view of the bay. All that could be clearly seen was flames and the silhouette of many oars. Ash also floated in the air like falling snow. Since the execution platform was so high, Ace also could be seen in the distance. He could only look on in horror as everyone he knew was being murdered before his eyes. The plan is proceeding smoothly, Sengoku yelled through the speakers. The execution of Portgas D. Ace will proceed immediately. The two executioners got into position as Garp sat cross-legged next to his grandson. His head was down, hiding his expression from everyone. Ace steeled himself for his fate. There was no fear in his eyes, only sadness and regret for dragging his family into all of this. He closed his eyes. The announcement snapped Luffy out of his daze as he looked up in horror. There was no way he could reach his brother in time if he didn't escape from this trap. There was only one way. He turned towards the opening that many oars had made and narrowed his eyes. Flames surrounded the path. It was almost daring Luffy to break through. Ace! Luffy shouted as he made his charge towards the open path. The pirates behind him were shocked, but they too took their fate in their hands and charged Luffy. Cannonballs and magma rained on them, but they couldn't stop. Time was not their friend. That route is far too obvious. It's definitely a trap. Iva screamed from the back, but no one listened. Pirates flew as cannonballs hit them. Some seemed to melt as the magma got to them, creating a horrible image that Goku would never forget. Most of the time, Goku started to get physically sick from the sight of war. Still, Luffy didn't let anything stop him as he avoided the cannonballs and the rain of death from above. He was almost halfway to the opening that would take him into the plaza. Without warning, a piece of cannonball shard broke and nicked Luffy in the face, causing him to stop as blood ran down his cheek. Another cannonball nearly hit Luffy and the memory shook violently, and a loud ringing could now be heard, blocking all other sounds. It was almost like the cannonball had ruptured Luffy's eardrum. The blood coming out of his ears seemed to confirm that fear. Luffy's run was reduced to a slow walk as he kept pushing himself forward. His body begged him to rest, but his mind kept it going despite all the pain he was in. Through the fog of fire and steam, he could see Ace's silhouette, posed to be killed at any moment. Ace! Luffy mumbled brokenly as he pushed himself forward. Goku felt his heart bleed from seeing Luffy push himself this hard. He was practically killing himself, and in the end, his efforts could end in tragedy. Ace! Luffy shouted just as several cannonballs hit him at once and exploded. The boy captain was blasted into the air and knocked into a half-conscious state. He kept flying until he landed into the steaming seawater. As Luffy sank into the depths of the sea. After a few minutes, Luffy was lying on his back on a remaining patch of ice. Jinbei and Iva were there, and they knelt by him worriedly. "Are you all right, Luffy?" Jinbei asked worriedly. Really? How reckless can you be? Iva scolded Luffy. Luffy was too out of breath and tired to answer. A loud roar got Goku's attention away from Luffy. Goku turned towards the source of the roar, which was coming from the metal wall. Oh, look who woke up! In the background, the Scion saw that Mini-Yours was awake and causing chaos among the Marines, who had thought for certain that the giant was dead. They were so busy dealing with ores that they stopped firing into the bay and the magma rain had ceased. How can they pass those indestructible walls? Goku asked. They may be spared for now, but they're still stuck in this death hole. Iva got to do something, Luffy said softly. It took more effort than it should for him to sit up. Iva, hurry. They're going to execute Ace. Yes, we must act quickly. Jinbei yelled. He too appeared close to panicking. Jinbei! Luffy yelled as he grabbed the ex-warlord's kimono. Luffy stared at him desperately. Iva got a favor to ask. Luffy's favor amounted to him having Jinbei use his fishman karate to create a waterspout to launch Luffy over the steel wall. As a weapon, Luffy carried a piece of a wooden mast with him. The plan worked perfectly, and Luffy finally made it into the plaza. However, whether Luffy planned it or he just had terrible luck, he made his grand entrance right in front of the three admirals. Luffy! Ace shouted in shock and horror. Luffy stood no chance against the three powerhouses. The admirals seemed mildly surprised to see Luffy. Aokiji appeared somewhat impressed while Kizaru seemed mostly amused. Akainu had a hardened expression as he looked over Luffy. For some reason, Akainu was the one that sent chills up the Straw Hat's spines. Unlike the other admirals who seemed all business, Akainu had an aura of malice around him. Luffy glared at each of the admirals. If he was afraid, which he should be if he had any sense, he didn't show it. Oh my, you finally made it here, Aokiji mused. Quite an entrance, Dragon's son, Akainu said, slightly impressed. This youngster sure is scary, Kizaru said in his usual easygoing manner. If nothing else, I praise your tenacity, Akainu said. But you are not ready for this stage yet, Aokiji stated. There is no way you can beat us, you know? Kizaru informed Luffy casually. Luffy still showed no fear, even though he knew that he was correct. Even on a good day, he couldn't beat one admiral. Still, he trained his eyes on Ace. He was so close. He couldn't stop even if it meant facing the monsters of the Marines. Give Ace back! Luffy screamed as he threw the mast at the admirals. Aokiji effortlessly froze the mast, but that was exactly what Luffy wanted. He jumped and hit the mast repeatedly with a Gatling stomp, shattering the frozen mast and creating a fog of ice that obscured the admiral's vision. With the ice fog made, Luffy wasted no time going into gear second and running like hell away from the admirals. I don't have time to fight these guys. Luffy yelled as he passed the admirals. Luffy leapt towards the execution platform as fast as he could, but he was cut off by Kizaru. Too slow, Kizaru mocked before he light-kicked Luffy in the face. Luffy screamed as he went flying into a nearby building and crashed into it. It took him a few seconds to regain his bearings, and he finally realized the deep trouble he was in. Not only did the admirals block him, but he was also surrounded by elite Marines from all sides. If I didn't know Luffy would have any energy left, he would say that he was pretty much screwed, Goku said as he looked at all the Marines, ready to attack Luffy if he so much as twitched. Damn it! Luffy growled as he saw the danger he was in. Sengoku barely glanced at Luffy before he turned to give the order. On my mark! Yes, sir, the executors exclaimed as they readied their blades. Ace had his head down, prepared to face his death. Luffy attempted to get up, but his body was too weakened to move. He collapsed back into the rubble and slumped onto the ground. Do it! Sengoku ordered as he brought his hand down. The executors brought their blades down to behead Ace. Ace! Luffy screamed as he was about to watch his brother die. Ace was unexpectedly saved at the very last second by none other than Crocodile. He used his ability to knock out both of the executors with one blow. Who did this? Sengoku yelled in surprise. Crocodile stood smugly among the crowd of Marines. He must have flown over the wall using his powers, Goku said, surprised. Everyone was so focused on Whitebeard and the other pirates that they must have lost track of him, bastard. Sengoku yelled in fury at the former warlord. Considering your old grudge with Whitebeard, I had thought we were lucky, crocodile. Him? Luffy shouted as his dislike for the man resurfaced. You were hell-bent on killing the old man. Jinbei yelled from the bay. What is this sudden change of heart? That dying old man? I will eliminate him later, Crocodile said nonchalantly. Right now, however, I do not want you to enjoy victory. Sengoku sneered in rage. He looked ready to jump down from the platform and strangled Crocodile. Goku titled his head. He did all of that just to mess with the Marines? Crocodile suddenly lost his head as Doflamingo beheaded him from behind. It was not fatal, since the warlord didn't use haki. The other Shichibukai were back up on their feet from their little nap. Hey now, Crocodile Man. So, you're ditching me to team up with Whitebeard? Doflamingo asked teasingly. It's enough to make a guy jealous, you know? Crocodile reformed his head and stared at the other warlord in annoyance. I do not team up with anyone. That's the same as brushing me off, Doflamingo said in amusement. More or less, Crocodile admitted. The two warlords started to fight, knocking away several Marines who were unfortunately in their way. I don't know what happened, but we were saved, Luffy sighed in relief. The Marines took notice of Luffy again and attempted to attack him. Since he had a moment to rest, he was able to handle the average Marine without too much problem. Get out of the way! Luffy screamed as he kicked an entire group of Marines away from him. He ran into some problems with Marines who knew Rokushiki, but even in his weakened state he was able to handle them even when they used Tekai. After all, their mastery of the style was nothing like CP9's. Luffy's luck ran out, however, when an ice spear came out of nowhere and nailed him in his upper arm. It was not a lethal blow, but it undoubtedly hurt given how Luffy was rolling on the ground, screaming in pain. Aokiji approached the fallen captain. Aokiji reached over Luffy's body and pulled the spear out. I am indebted to your grandfather, but I have no choice. He raised the ice spear to kill Luffy. There was a slight look of regret on his face. You have chosen your own death. The fatal blow never came as Marco flew in and kicked Aokiji away from Luffy. The Admiral went flying into some buildings, much to the Marine's shock. Luffy took a moment to catch his breath and nursed his wounded arm. He looked up toward his savior and gave a grateful smile. Thanks for saving me. Marco smiled back at him. Don't mention it. 3 devil fruit users have crossed into the plaza. Someone screamed in the distance. Guns and cannon fire could be heard as the Marines attempted to keep any more pirates from breaking through. Screams were suddenly heard about a second-coated ship coming out of the water before many oars lifted a ship over the steel wall, allowing the Whitebeard pirates and their allies through into the plaza. It was a fairly big paddle boat that was in the shape of the Moby Dick. Despite its size, oars held it like it was a model ship. Goku looked at his friend with concerned eyes. Luffy. Luffy is struggling to get back on his feet. His breaths came out as harsh puffs and he coughed up some blood. He looked horrible. His cheeks were a burning red as his fever got worse, and he was littered with wounds from both the war and impel down. He was literally soaked in his own blood. He appeared only seconds away from collapsing completely. Luffy's vision was fuzzed and refocused several times as Luffy attempted to regain his senses. Luffy was so out of it that he leaned heavily on the rubble as he attempted to stay awake. Old man! Ace screamed at his captain. Still got your head, Ace? Whitebeard asked. We made it, Miniors exclaimed as he gasped for breath. He appeared close to passing out again. Now, Ace can be rescued. Marines ruthlessly shot at the injured giant, causing him to scream in pain. When the firing stopped, Oars was left shaking and barely conscious. Before he fell, he turned towards his fellow pirates with pleading eyes. Save! Ace! He then collapsed and didn't move. Goku looked at the crowd of pirates. To think that one person is so valuable that so many groups would come together and shift the world and risk everything they have to save them. Whitebeard moved forward and stood on the front of his ship. Everyone waited for him to make his move, including all the warlords, admirals, and Luffy.